from Evening Star Astrology. I hope you're doing well, staying healthy, staying safe. Welcome to another video. Welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you here today. So last week I filmed a video about the big three in your birth chart: your sun, your moon, your rising, what they signify, why they're important. And once you figured out your big three, the natural progression for most people in astrology is to next learn about your personal planets, which are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. These three are considered personal planets because they move pretty quickly and therefore are more unique and personalized, if you will, to your birth chart rather than Jupiter, which takes a whole year to move around the sun through all 12 zodiac signs, or Saturn, which takes like 2 to 3 years to move around the entire zodiac. Before we get into the specific significations of each of the planets, I just want to remind you guys, in case this is your first time, and if so, hi, welcome. But I study a mix of Hellenistic and modern astrology, so the significations that I will be giving for the planets reflects that. So you may have heard some things like that modern astrologers ascribe to each of these planets that I don't mention, or vice versa. But this is what I've learned from my studies studying Hellenistic and modern astrology. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. Up first, we have Mercury. And Mercury is the messenger. In ancient Greek and Roman astrology, he's always out there getting those messages around. Mercury serves the sun. And if you remember from my video last week, if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. But the sun is our core self, our ego, our vitality. And so Mercury serves that by expressing that, by kind of communicating between our internal landscape and our external circumstances. And Mercury, often can also represent communication between two people. But I also like to think of Mercury as kind of the bridge between like our thoughts and our perception of the world. So to expand on that, Mercury is about communication, learning, thoughts, travel, how we perceive the world, and then how we express ourselves. Our Mercury placement shows how we learn. Are you a visual learner? Do you prefer to read about things? Do you need to learn through actually like doing them? That's your Mercury sign. And how you process information, do you need to take notes? Can you just listen and absorb it? And learning, of course, is not just limited to school, but when you're on the job or just when you're talking to others, how do you learn from them? How do you process and take in the information that is presented to you in any situation? And then when it comes to expressing our inner selves to the external world, that's also Mercury, and that is our communication style, also like our word choice and how we speak and how we choose to express ourselves. Are you very verbose, or do you kind of lean more towards the brevity, like say it in as few words as possible? If you have a fixed Mercury sign, you might think very carefully about what you want to say before you actually say it. But if you have a cardinal Mercury, you might just talk and need to process things externally and think out loud. Basically, Mercury is just how we communicate, how we learn, how we express our inner selves, and how we perceive the world around us. Mercury also rules travel, so that's why when Mercury goes retrograde, you might have car issues or get stuck in traffic more, because Mercury is all about the transmission, transmitting ideas, and then also getting from point A to point B physically. In this video, I also wanted to talk about the shadow side of the planets. And while we do have our benefic planets and our malefic planets, which are inherently mostly good or bad, no single planet is entirely good or entirely bad. So Mercury is not considered a benefic or a malefic. It's pretty neutral. And the descriptions I've given thus far are pretty neutral. It's your communication style. It is what it is. It's not good or bad. It just is. However, there are some sides to Mercury. If you think about the imagery of the fox, who's a bit of a trickster, Mercury kind of fits that archetype as well. Or Mercury can also be deceitful or self-serving, lying and such. That's kind of the shadow side of Mercury, if you will. But ultimately, Mercury is just generally a pretty neutral planet. It's how we communicate, how we learn. Ultimately, Mercury serves the sun, ourself. So it is about how we express ourselves through words and language. So up next we have Venus, and Venus is one of the two benefics, the other one being Jupiter. So it's very traditionally viewed as a positive planet. It's about love and harmony and beauty, social graces, affection, romance, good food, kind of like a bit of indulgence, not quite as much as Jupiter, but there is definitely like a treating yourself type of energy with Venus. Venus is often considered to be the relationship planet, but Venus is really more like the positive side of relationships, the harmonious side of them, the like fun side of relationships. You know, like when I think of Venus, I think of just like a celebration, a party, kind of like Three of Cups energy, where it's just, you know, you're surrounded by good people, good food, good vibes. That's the energy of Venus. In your birth chart, Venus can signify relationships, romance, your interest in art and music. You know, are you more creatively minded or less? Venus also rules money. So Venus in your birth chart can show how you spend your money, do you save your money, and what you like to spend your money on. Venus can also show your image, like the image you want to project to the world, and your aesthetic. So if you have a strong Venus placement in your chart, you have a very clear sense of the image that you want to present to the world. You know, your makeup, your clothes, your hair, like your Instagram feed, like all of this is very Venusian. And if you have strong Venus placements, you will definitely have a very strong and consistent aesthetic that you promote. So even though Venus is a benefic planet and is generally considered to be very positive in the birth chart, there is of course like a negative or a shadow side of it. And this shadow side mostly comes when Venus prioritizes harmony over authenticity or justice. You know, if you are creating this idealized image of yourself and maintaining something that is inauthentic, but it looks nice or it doesn't rock the boat, that's kind of the negative side of Venus. Vanity would also kind of fall into the negative manifestation of Venus. And a current example from our world right now is like the All Lives Matter movement. You know, people who think that saying Black Lives Matter is political or it divides people up in some way. And so they say all lives matter because it promotes a sense of harmony and balance and equality, even though that's a very insincere and unjust form of harmony. It looks good, it feels safe and secure, and that's like what Venus likes. And so Venus will work to create that kind of like idealized perfect image, even if everything is crumbling beneath it. As long as it looks good on the outside, again, promotes this image of being beautiful, harmonious, put together, etc. Even if it's at the expense of people's lives. But yeah, so in conclusion about Venus, Venus is about harmony, balance, love, affection, music, art, social graces, romance, pleasure. I forgot to mention pleasure earlier, but like very like what brings pleasure to your mind and then also to your physical body. Finally, with Venus, we have the aesthetic and the image and creating the presentation that you want to show the world. So our final planet today is Mars, and Mars is a malefic planet. So it generally signifies bad or challenging things in the birth chart, in the world. Mars is all about aggression, confrontation, conflict, anger. It's a very physical, like visceral planet. Like it feels anger and then it acts out that anger. Mars is also about conflict. So we just talked about Venus, which is very interested in keeping the peace and promoting this like harmonious, idealized image. As long as it's like harmonious, it's okay. Mars is the exact opposite. Mars is not interested in harmony or continuity or unity. Mars breaks things apart. Mars is willing to stand its ground, and sometimes Mars can be very defensive, and you're backed into a corner, and that's when Mars comes out to save the day. Mars can also be very offensive and instigate conflict. Whether that's justified conflict, like standing up for what's right in the world, or your values, or for people around you who are being hurt. Mars can also be an ego thing, like think toxic masculinity is definitely a negative manifestation of Mars. Mars can be very aggressive, and if the ego gets bruised, Mars comes in swinging. Also with Mars though, there's an element of bravery and courage and knowing when to stand up for what's right and how to do it. Like I said, Mars is a malefic planet, so most of its significations are negative simply because you have the good of Venus, and so we balance it out with the bad of Mars. But Mars can be used in a very powerful and positive way by expressing confidence, fighting for what you want, advocating for yourself, putting in the work and the effort to get that promotion, get the recognition you deserve. And also there's the action and vitality with Mars. Mars is a very physical planet, so things like working out or just your physical body come from Mars. Like using the visceral anger that comes from Mars in a positive way, like working out to let out your emotions. That's a very positive manifestation of Mars. Mars also rules sex, and while Venus kind of rules like the pleasures, like what feels good to you, Mars is very much about who you like to have sex with and how you like to do it. Like the very physical, removing like the emotional, sensual part of sex and just like the very physical act of it, that's very Martian. Also with Mars, there's definitely an element of violence or abuse or assault. Mars is the god of war. Like, this is not a planet that is interested in like being nice just to be nice. And sometimes that crosses the line into being too aggressive, too violent, or straight up just abusing other people. And I think I mentioned this earlier, but Mars is also about competition. So when you are in a position where you are in a perceived or actual competition, Mars comes in, armed and ready to defend. I think that's about it for Mars. Keywords, again, for Mars are aggression, conflict, confidence, physicality, energy, vitality, anger. And again, Mars is about destroying rather than unifying like Venus is. And that can be both positive and negative thing. Sometimes we need to tear down what exists in order to build something better. And sometimes Mars just destroys things to destroy things. On that note, I'm gonna end the video here because my apartment is 89 degrees and I am roasting alive. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe. That would really help me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.